And hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Exceptional Experience, an ECAC podcast. This podcast is brought to you by ECAC, where we help families and improve lives. And I'm joined by my good friend, co host Maya Warren. My name is Billy Pickens. Hi, Maya. How are you doing today?
I am good, Billy. I'm excited for another guest episode that we have today.
That's right. And as Maya mentioned, today is a guest episode. Now, if you haven't heard our most recent guest episode, we had one of our amazing youth advisory team members on named Thomas. And that was our first guest episode. I definitely recommend. If you haven't watched that, go watch that. It's up now. But we have another amazing youth advisory team member, another amazing guest here today, and someone I'm happy to also call a good friend of mine. And her name is Lizzie. Lizzie, how are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Even better to have you on now and for you to share your story and share everything that you would like with the world. So, with that being said, we're going to get into some questions. So, Lizzie, tell everybody about yourself. Tell the audience, anything you want to tell them, where you're from, where you live, your disability, anything you want to talk about.
All right. So, my name is Lizzie. I'm 19 years old. I will be 20 this year in September. I was born with spina bifida, and my parents were told 3 months before I was born that I would never walk. And I started walking at age 3 with a walker and full leg braces. And I would often, when I was younger, I would often get answered or asked questions about the way I walk and the quote unquote things that people would call it on my legs. And it was embarrassing because when I was little, I understood little about my disability or those things on my legs. Um, all I told people was that they helped me walk, which is partly true. Um, but they actually help me support myself when I stand because I have little to no feeling below the legs or below the knees. And so I can walk without my braces, but as far as standing without my braces, I have to have something or someone to lean on for support or sit somewhere. Um, so I found all of this out when I was a junior in high school, and that happened due to me joining SCA at my high school because the teacher that is over the group or was over the group wanted me to share something, and I was like, okay, this is a good chance to share my testimony. So I shared about that um, that that day during the SCA meeting. Um, so yeah.
That's awesome. Great intro. Um, so, you talk a little bit about your disability. But what has your experience been like living as a person with a disability, and what are some challenges and some positives that you have experienced throughout life?
So I'll start with positives. I think I would have to say that a lot of my positive experiences mostly came from my experience my senior year, both semesters in ROTC. And what led to me joining was as a occupational course of study student or OCS student um, in high school. I had to do on-campus hours and off-campus hours because um, what each grade had to do was based on their grade. So as a sophomore, I was on campus at the ROTC unit with the major, and um, it was a sergeant at the time, and he started talking to me about doing ROTC and getting me interested in it. And so um, junior year, he started picking on me a little bit more about it, saying, "So how about doing ROTC?" I was like, "I'll think about it," and that was pretty much my answer every time. To the point where he would go. like he would ask me once or twice, and I would be like, okay, I'll think about it. So then Major was like, okay, so you said this every single time, so here's what we're gonna do. You have a 4-day deadline to go to your counselor and talk to her and tell her that I want you in ROTC for the next semester before I go up there myself and say, hey, did she talk to you about me wanting her in the program? So I did it within that 4 day, and so then the major comes back to me the next couple of days or so and says, so I talked to your counselor and she says that she has you in there, but unfortunately the following semester as an OCS student I was off campus for my occupational hours, um, that I had to have so I could graduate with a diploma, and so um, that's why I asked my counselor to put me in it for my senior year both semesters, and I did it both of the semesters and loved it. So looking back, I would have regretted not doing that because being in ROTC taught me a lot about um, being confident in yourself and not caring what other people think of you, as far as your physical appearance, because it's not the physical appearance that matters. It's who you are on the inside.
That's awesome, and I love that you said that, and I can definitely relate to that. In my own life, as I think a lot of people ask, why do we have so much confidence, or why? And sometimes we feel like we have no choice because we have to face these challenges that, not to discount other people's challenges, but we have to face our specific challenges, and we have to learn to overcome that. It really makes us stronger in a way. Um,
Right.
that's a great answer. So, um, what are some challenges you have faced throughout your life, either general or directly related to your disability, and how have you overcome them?
So I don't really know how else to put it except there's I've had a lot of experience throughout my life of people telling me what they thought I could and couldn't do, and um, I based my ability on what other people thought I could do, instead of what I felt confident in myself that that I knew I was capable of. Does that make sense? Um, so, but then when I took ROTC, it got to that point where I was like, you know what? These teachers just want to support me. They don't want me. They're not there to judge me. They want me to know that other people aren't there to judge me, and I just need to be confident in my own ability, and not be so um, held up on what other people thought I could do. And that just built my self esteem up a lot. So, and plus, like at the end of the day, it's what God says about me that matters. It's not somebody else's opinion. Like, oh, you can't do this because you have this disability. Oh, you can't do this because blah blah blah. No. At the end of the day, God has the final word.
Right.
So
Yeah, and to your point, Lizzie, thank you for sharing that. You raised a good point about how as people with disabilities, we can often take on the perceptions of others in regards to how we look, how we should go about things, what our capabilities are, even to a fault where we internalize ableism, which are attitudes, systems, and structures that favor people without disabilities as opposed to people with disabilities. And I think one of the things that I have learned as an advocate and as an individual is the importance of how I view my disability or disabilities often impacts how other people view them. So if I view it from the perspective of woe is me, guess what? I'm going to get pity from people. But if I view it from the perspective of, okay, I'm visually impaired, but that makes my perception and paradigm and the way that I maneuver in this world all the more unique. Even with having albinism, I lack pigmentation. So that makes me stand out by nature, and learning to lean into that instead of run from that. And I think a lot of times society kind of puts us in this awkward position as people with disabilities where because we are different, um, we feel like, oh man, well, where do I fit in? But I would argue no one is normal. And I don't even use that word anymore. I use the word typical. There are certain
Absolutely.
typical characteristics that one may have. But all in all, we are all different. And people with disability have so much intersectionality in how we maneuver in this world that it's more advantageous for people without disabilities to learn from us at times because we have different light that we can shed on a lot of topics that ultimately benefits everyone. Like if you look at universal accommodation, like somebody who was blind or visually impaired had to walk around enough buildings, not being able to see those numbers with or without braille, for someone to say, oh, let's make these room numbers large print. That benefits everybody, even people
So
without
true.
vision impairments. So even seemingly small things like that benefit everyone, and viewing it from that perspective, I think it helps us as people with disabilities become more comfortable and confident that we do have a place in this world.
Yeah, and to even add to your point, Maya, I think that we as people with disabilities, we have the ability to teach people how to be more inclusive. I think that especially as the conversation of inclusion has increased over the past couple of years, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we still have a long way to go. I think that we teach people through our actions, and when we do things, and when we, uh, like you mentioned, large print in certain rooms, or it's even teaching. I've had people tell me, professors in college tell me, and people just in general tell me, you really made me see things differently. No pun intended. You
Mm-hmm.
really helped me um, really try to think about what I was doing and the actions I was taking,
Yeah.
and it really impacted me as a person, and being able to be more inclusive, not just for someone who's totally blind, but someone in a wheelchair, someone who has autism.
In my experience and in the conversations we have, one of the things I've learned about you is that you self advocate really well when it comes to sharing your story. And a lot of times we don't view that as something significant, but it really does matter because one person comes across you, you share your story, and the next person they meet with a disability, they're more inclined to be accepting and accommodative from that experience.
Yeah, and even I mean, even you've done such a good job, and I'm not even just saying because you're my friend. I feel like you've done such a good job, and the past year that I've gotten to know you, and out of respect for you, I won't share everything, but
Mm-hmm.
even just some of the things that you've been going through, and some of the things in your life that you've been going through, you've done a really good job of being open about that and sharing that, and also saying, hey, I need help in this moment. I need some support. Would you be open to supporting me? That's advocating, and you've done such a good job at that. I feel like, and really being honest with where you are in your life, and the kind of support that you need, and being interdependent. Being independent, but also being willing to ask for help. And I
Right.
think you do such a great job of that.
And I feel like that comes from my experience in ROTC as well, because I, well, this was with all of my other my cadet classmates too. Um, the major and the chief, uh, they would give the students they would give the students space and let them be the ones to ask for help instead of you know major reader chief stiller being like hovering over you until you needed help. And that really helped me stand up for myself, and not just in that class but in general, because it helped me realize that I need to be okay. um, I need to feel okay and willing to ask for help, and also when I need people to just back up a little bit to give me some breathing space. Um, so I feel like that was also one of my beneficial points of taking that class.
That's awesome. So, what would be some of your advice you would give to both people with disabilities and those who assist people with disabilities?
Um, Coming from experience of just the things that people have told me throughout my life that I wouldn't be able to do. Like, for instance, my doctors telling my parents that I would never walk, and then started walking at age 3 with the walker and the braces. Um, and just even negative self talk, like, oh, I can't do this because of my disability. Oh, I can't do this because blah, blah, blah. That, from my conversations of, or with my um, friends from church and other people outside of church that I talk to, um, just to not look down on yourself because of your disability. And even if you don't have a disability, this is for those that do or don't have a disability. Um, just to not look down on yourself because of what you can't do, or because of what you can't do just like somebody else can do something. Because everybody has strengths and everybody has a weakness, and they're not all the same for every single person. It's all different because we're all different human beings. So just to not compare yourself, um, whether it's about your ability or your physical appearances to other people. And I had to learn that when I was in ROTC and doing doing that class. I I am very blessed to have taken that class because that's the class that I had to learn that in, and it's the class that taught me that. Um, because my teachers, they saw what I was capable of when I didn't, and they had to assure me that it was okay to just be Lizzie. It was okay to just do things the best of my ability, and it was okay to modify things that I couldn't do all the way. Um, so yeah, just because comparison in itself is a trap, for lack of a better word. It's a trap because there's people out there that'll put themselves in a group just so they're not alone, but they're probably in the wrong group and don't realize it. Um, so it's just important to be yourself and be the person that God wants you to be, um, because He has a purpose for everyone, and no one has the same exact purpose in life. So,
Very, very well said. I felt inspired listening to that. That's very well said. So before we wrap things up today, is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything else you'd like people to know about? Anything that you're working on?
um, so I actually just started a job for, it's 2 days a week. I work Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoons at a um, it's like a consignment store almost, but it's Christian ministry based. Um, it's West Stanley Christian Ministries in Stanfield, and I love it because I've known all those people that work there since my junior year. Because one of the semesters, I think it was my second semester that I worked there for my occupational hours, um, for my diploma and my graduation. So just getting back with them has been fun, and every day or every time I go there, it's a different task. And um, there's been a couple rough days, but I'm still alive. I made it. I'm here.
That's awesome. It's because you found community that is supportive and you really love working the job. So I'm glad to hear that. So with that being said, you don't have any. I don't know if you have any other questions that you wanted to ask.
No, I just want to say thank you, Lizzie, for showing up, lending your voice and your experiences. We're glad to have you as our second guest.
Yes.
And without further ado, I'm gonna hand it over to you, Billy.
Well, thank you, Maya, and thank you, Lizzie. Thank you for joining us and sharing your story and really uplifting people and inspiring people. And I'm sure our audience really appreciate what you had to share today and really enjoy that. And so, with that being said, remember this podcast is brought to you by ECAC, where we empower families and improve lives. I want to thank ECAC for allowing us this platform. And I want to thank Maya and Lizzie for joining us today. And so remember to let your light shine, always be kind. And from all of us here at ECAC, we will see you next time. Have a great one, everybody.